I have zero problem with this. So much so that I don't even want the conversation to be about Mina/Keith is doing with themselves, because I think the crux of the argument is just that. It's what they are doing for themselves. I'm happy for this person. Here's my concern with this, though. In the political climate that we're dealing with right now in this country, not that this person is beholden to literally anybody but themselves. This is a terrible time for this story. And I don't want to place any kind of ulterior motives to why this person is doing this. I don't want to suggest that maybe they're afraid because of the political climate and because trans people are very much in the crosshairs right now because of the decision that this country has made with its voting power. I'm not suggesting that. This person probably had a very real and a very organic experience, and it just happened now. This conversation is an incredibly delicate conversation to have, and I just hope that we can all have it with an open mind and with the understanding that unless you're a transgender person, you really don't have a lot to say. It's not something that you should really be talking about all that much. The first half of this article sounds like it was all good and it's all about her. And then the second half sounds like they're pointing to a societal problem. And that worries me. Mind your business. Honestly, mind your business. I want to get to our first story of the day. And our first story of the day is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a touchy subject. So, all right. So, Mina Caputo, who I've done a few videos and a few conversations about the band Life of Agony, because the album River Runs Red is one of my very favorite albums, probably of all time, honestly. But it's definitely one of my favorite metal albums of all time, and it might fall amongst my top 50 of all time. I've been talking about my top 50 a lot lately, and I feel like I'm stepping up to I'm approaching my 50th birthday in a few years, and I think by the time that 50th birthday comes around, I'm gonna want to do a list. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you're watching this now, or if you're watching a video or whatever, if you're catching this later. Be sure to please like and subscribe. This way, if I get to my certain subscriber threshold that I have set for myself, I will do it ahead of time. I have one for doing a Rush Fandom Files. I think that's going to be probably 50,000 subscribers. And I think if I get to 100,000 subscribers, I'll do a top 50 albums list for me, like that pertains only to me, as if you might be interested in that. So I would imagine that if I get to that threshold with that knowledge out there, it's because you want to, I don't know, it's because you want me to do it. So that's what I'm going to do. But for right now, we're going to get onto this. Life of Agony's River Runs Red is one of my favorite albums. That's how we started on this little tangent. And what was interesting is that I think there was a video I did 3 years ago where I wasn't sure, because I am 48 years old and I still am very much trying to adjust to this, I don't know, to the new vernacular of the day, okay? Because when you're dealing with people who are transgender and, you know, they might still be kind of male presenting, but they're transitioning, and you don't want to call them by their dead name, and you don't want to misgender anybody. So there are landmines everywhere, and I know it frustrates a lot of people. And it doesn't frustrate me. It only frustrates me when I make the mistake. So I've made many a mistake in the past in front of many a person who was a transgender person. And as long, you know, every time that I've ever made that mistake, as long as I was like, oh crap, I didn't realize I did that, I'm sorry, they've always been very cool with me. And I'm sure Mina Caputo was no different. But in a video, I had to ask a few people, do I refer to them as the name they were when they recorded this album, or do I refer to them as the name they are now? Do I refer to them as the gender they were when they recorded this album, or do I refer to them as the gender they are now? Well, this story actually makes this a little more confusing. And I want to be very clear. Actually, I'm not going to do this right now. I'm going to read the story first, and then I will make sure I will make clear my assertions here. So, Life of Agony's Mina Caputo says she has cured, quote unquote, cured her gender dysphoria and will be changing her name back to Keith Caputo. Transgender singer Mina Caputo, once known as Keith Caputo, the front person for the popular rock band Life of Agony, says that she has cured her gender dysphoria and will change her name back to Keith Caputo after being physically completely detransitioned in 2025. So what's interesting about this very first paragraph is that transgender singer Mina Caputo, once known as Keith Caputo, the front person for the popular rock band, says that so referring to them as she, even though them, Mina/Keith, in their own thing is saying that they're going to detransition. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, it just goes to expand upon the confusion that could happen, and why you just have to be open-minded in these things, all right? Because that's what I'm going to get at here. Mina broke the news of her plans to detransition in a 13-minute video posted on her IG. She said, yes, I am off hormones 6-7 years now, and this January 2025, I am my surgery as has been booked to remove my fake breasts, and I will be lovingly living in my divine male self. I've cured my gender dysphoria. It took many years, a lot of walking through the fire, but I rose above my misunderstandings of my soul and my spirit. That's a completely different topic and video, so I won't unpack all of that now. I just wanted to share with you guys once again that I am off hormones therapy 6-7 years, when a place where there's no more pain was made with Life of Agony. That was 2016, and I've been existing in a different version of myself and a more healed version of myself. I've done years of trauma work, plant medicine therapy, which the world isn't ready for that conversion. That conversation, sorry. However, and I am making this video because a lot of people are throwing me shade and saying I look ugly and I look like a man and all that shit. And it's like, honey lamb, I am a man. I always was a man. You're just not used to hearing authentic people speak. This goes on, right? So she's changing her name back to Keith, and she's becoming she's going back to from which she came. Okay, so just so we get this right off the bat and right in the clear, okay? I have zero problem with this. I have no problem with this, so much so that I don't even want the conversation to be about Mina/Keith and what them is doing with themselves, because I think the crux of the argument is just that. It's what they are doing for themselves. I'm happy for this person. I think, I don't know when you start calling them Keith or Mina, but I think what Caputo is doing is a wonderful thing for them. They had their own... I just lost Winnie the Pooh. They had their own personal journey. They had their own personal situation that they dealt with, and they went and transitioned and lived like a woman for I think it was a decade at least. I think it was at least 10 years, if not more, that Mina Caputo was a woman, right? So... and they are saying that it was a gender dysphoria inside of them. They went through therapy. They went through this whole experience, and they've come out the other end and decided, okay, I'm actually Keith, and that's that. Here's my concern with this, though. In the political climate that we're dealing with right now in this country, not that this person is beholden to literally anybody but themselves. This is a terrible time for this story. This is not a good time for this story. And and I don't want to place any kind of ulterior motives to why this person is doing this. I don't want to suggest that maybe they're afraid because of the political climate and because trans people are very much in the crosshairs right now because of the decision that this country has made with its voting power. I'm not suggesting that. this person probably had a very real and a very organic experience, and it just happened now. So I, again, want to be very clear that this is not a comment on what Mina Keith or Keith Mina or they are saying for themselves and the experience that they're having. That is not what I'm getting at all. They have their experience, and that's fine. What I'm saying is, please, 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 people who are reading and hearing this story, do not take this as some sort of blanket statement for all trans people that this is the norm, that trans people more often than not want to detransition and have felt that that this is the way, that most people who transition wind up regretting it and wanting to go back. I think this is a very slippery slope, and I think this will be pointed to by someone on a certain side of the aisle, on a certain ideology, in a certain place in time. Somebody's going to mention this as, well, this person detransitioned. There's a whole story. I'm so happy for this person, but at the same time, I am terrified for my trans friends and even people I don't even know who are transgender, who are going to be looked at as if they're faking now, or as if they just have to work through this mental illness. That's not, just because it's one person doesn't mean it's all, okay? Like, I can be a person that can go on record and say that I was bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder wrongly years and years ago. And it turns out that was a misdiagnosis. So things have been changed. But I would never, ever in a million years point to all people with bipolar disorder who have been diagnosed and say, yeah, that's clearly wrong. You might want to get that checked out. I might tell them my story if it comes up and say, yeah, this was my story. But my things were very specific. My things were almost kind of obvious, so much so that a doctor said, are you sure you're bipolar? And I was like, I just trusted what my doctor told me 15 years ago. This might be a similar situation, and it might happen to more than one transgender person. Maybe that happens. And maybe a broader discussion about at what point you should transition and whatnot can be had. But again, I think there's a great misunderstanding about what is actually happening with teenagers who are transgender. They're not being transitioned as teenagers. Most people who get physical surgeries and do life-altering type of things I think they're almost always adults. I don't have statistics in front of me. And the main reason why is because I'm not a transgender person, so I don't need to know these statistics. And so, but with that being said, I think this is a very dangerous story that can definitely be weaponized, and that's not Mina Caputo. That's not Mina Caputo's fault. They should be allowed to, release this information and have this discussion whenever they want. It's us as a society that needs to receive it the correct way and make sure that we are not being, that we're not going to weaponize this, that we're not going to take a story like this and use it against other trans people or other people who are experiencing the same types of things. It's really upsetting to me when that happens. It's happened with the abortion issue. It's happened with gay and lesbian and LGBTQ plus rights issues. It's happened with so many issues where one prominent person, no matter how big or small they are, I mean, Life of Agony is not exactly a mainstream band, right? But that doesn't mean that this isn't going to make news. See, like, for example, like in this article here, Mina goes on to say, I'm very proud of myself. I've been through so much over the years. I wouldn't wish gender dysphoria on my worst enemy. It's one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever been through in my life, and I'm so happy that it's fucking over. And I don't even recognize myself anymore, and I wish someone like Joe Rogan can come grab me so I can tell my story in depth, because I'll keep myself on a show for like 3 hours, and I can get into it all because I understand it. I know what hormones do to the body. I know what it did to me. It castrated my soul. Not only does it castrate you physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. See, these are big, broad, sweeping statements. And I want to make it clear that just because this happened to one person does not mean that everyone feels the same way. Anyone that's going to disagree with me, that's cool, but I know you're lying because I've been hearing stories for 30 plus years of the nightmares hormone therapy does to people's body. See, that's the first thing. When I first came out, turned myself inside out. I went to therapy for 3 years, almost 3 years. Suddenly these days, there's no more therapy. You could take your little 3-4 year old toddler to the clinic and get hormone packages. Whatever happened to therapy? Don't get me started. I got a lot to unpack, a lot. I'm very deep. I'm very complex. Social media will never get somebody like me. This matrix full of like plastic people. I think they're already got out of the artificial wombs and babies coming out because it's like I don't even know who people are anymore. It's so weird. It's like no one can put one and one together anymore. And she's right. But I also think that she's going down a very dangerous path here. I'm not saying that she shouldn't be doing this or saying this, but there are big, broad, sweeping things that she's saying here that honestly is a little concerning because this can have grand sweeping effects, and this can definitely put a negative light on transgender people as a whole. So I think we need to see how this pans out. I think we need to see what else she has to say going forward. What else did she say here? Anyway, that's what I've been going hard against with the children. Because you change, you can't. When I first came out, I thought I was going to be free. Eventually, you cage yourself with that. I know in my personal journey, what once freed me wound up caging me. And now I'm changing back again. But I'm a more healed version of who I am because of my spirit, because what my spirit has been put through myself, what my spirit has put myself through. I walked through so many fires, so much adversity I've been through in my life, even in my childhood. I never even had a child. I grew up pulling heroin needles out of my father's legs and arms and hands and so on and so forth. So this is a video that can be found on her Instagram page, Mina Caputo. I don't wish being trans on my worst enemy. It's so debilitating, man. I feel bad for the parents that don't know any better and for the children. I really do. This is a fucked up world. They're confusing motherfuckers too much. It's like let your kids play. Drugs ain't going to fix anything. Surgery will not fix. And again, I cannot speak on any of this because I don't know how this feels at all. I know that I have suffered through periods of body dysmorphia and, thinking that I'm a fat shit when I'm not really. So I can kind of expound on that a little bit, but I don't think that's the same. That's not a betrayal of your own identity. That's just you looking at yourself and hating yourself. So I don't know what this betrayal of your own identity looks like. And then to go back after the fact, I can't even comment on it. What I can comment on, though, is it sounds like this person is definitely making it a blanket statement and less about them and more about being transgender as a whole. And I understand for them that this might have been a tough experience and that they went through this whole thing and came out the other end feeling like, wow, that wasn't me at all. This is really me. And I'm glad I finally figured that out. That's awesome. It had to be really, really painful, and it had to be really, really challenging. And you're right. I don't wish that on anybody. But at the same time, I also do not wish the ripple effect of this that might get spawned off because of what she is saying. I mean, I know that she's not exactly, again, a huge star, but what if Joe Rogan does pick her up and does have this story and does talk about it? We saw the effect of what Joe Rogan can have on our collective society just a few weeks ago with the election. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I wanted to make a comment on it. I think it's great, honestly, that Mina Caputo has cured her gender dysphoria and will be changing back to Keith Caputo. I think that's wonderful for them. I think that's great for them. For society, I don't know if this is a great story. And I don't know what the ripple effect will look like. So I'm a little concerned about that. I have to be honest. This level of conversation is a delicate one. Let's say that. This conversation is an incredibly delicate conversation to have. And I just hope that we can all have it with an open mind and with the understanding that unless you're a transgender person, you really don't have a lot to say. It's not something that you should really be talking about all that much. Kind of a lot like the abortion issue, honestly. I think women, that should be a women's issue, and women should be making decisions on women's issues, and transgender people should be making decisions on transgender issues, and so on and so forth. I'm sure that many a transgender person will hear this story today and have the same fear inside of them that I have, if not more, because it directly affects them. So, I mean, that's the only thing I really can say on this. I can't really expand on it any further. You know, I agree that therapy is paramount in this issue. I don't think anybody takes this lightly. I don't think anybody is taking their 3 or 4 year old child to get hormone replacement therapy. I can't imagine that that's happening. I cannot imagine. Every single one of my children, boys and girls alike, dressed up like girls, or boys for that matter, like in their playtime. That's what kids do. I did it. I'm sure you did it. So like, at no point did I ever look at my child and go, I wonder if they're actually a girl or actually a boy. Like, you just let that shit ride out. And then obviously if it becomes a problem later on in life as teenagers where the kid is experiencing depression and you're trying to figure out why, or they're having problems with social interactions and you're trying to figure out why, or like there's a million reasons and a million things that come up throughout the course of a child's life that you're going to stand there and go, why is this happening? I don't understand what's going on. And I'm almost guaranteed that there are not many doctors out there that are going, hey, try this hormone therapy and see if that works. I am almost guaranteeing that's not happening. So if someone is transgender, then let them figure it out. And if they're not, let them figure it out on their own and let the parents of the children figure it out. Oh, man. And if you're a parent and you're being so stifling that you're telling your child that they're wrong about how they feel about themselves, you get what's coming to you anyway. That's on you. Be more open-minded. Don't be such a closed-minded parent. Sure, you can say no to hormone therapy and surgeries if that's something that's even being offered to your sub-teen child. But if it's not, and your boy wants to dress like a girl and vice versa for the duration of their childhood, then fucking let them do it and just support them. Be a good parent. Don't be a closed-minded asshole. It's that simple. So, and then we can avoid all this, right? All right.